2020. This is going to be a good year. I'm pretty excited for 2020. I think it's going to be fantastic. 2020. This is going to be a good year. I'm pretty excited for 2020. I think it's going to be fantastic. 2020. This is going to be a good year. Hey film dorks, welcome back to my end of the year video series. Today, things are looking up. We're talking about the 8 best films I watched in 2020. Now, once again, these films are not ranked in any particular order, and this is just my personal opinion, so if these are not your favorites, that's fine. I think we're all entitled to feel the way we feel about movies. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Personally, I don't understand the people who say,
"Oh, well, it was pretty innovative, so I guess it's important."
Or they say,
"It was probably pretty good for its time, but..."
For me, this is not just a technically incredible film. For me, this is a compelling portrayal of the central character. This is a really well-crafted and engaging narrative with such great performances from really the entire cast right down to the minor characters. And yeah, I get that the answer, as it were, is gimmicky and hasn't aged well, but it's also one that I feel like the more I think about that ending, the less I think that the gimmicky ending actually has much to say of substance about Kane's life on the whole. The realization that we don't actually know his life because nobody can know anyone else's life, not really. To me, that is so much more powerful than just, "Oh, Rosebud." M, as I've said before, is Fritz Lang's masterpiece. Just the way he interwove the sounds and the visuals, and Peter Lorre's performance as the villain, who's simultaneously just horrible and disgusting and monstrous, and at the same time so tortured and so sympathetic. I know in my video on Fritz Lang, I talk smack about the ending, and that ending still grates on me, but this is still one of the greatest films ever made. Little Women was one of the last movies that I got to see in cinemas before everything shut down because COVID. I was really blown away by this one. So fantastically well shot, and the choice to adapt the straightforward novel into a sort of postmodern, non-linear storytelling form just adds an extra layer of poignancy and depth to the stories of the March sisters as they're growing up and as they're dealing with adult life. And there were such strong performances from the entire cast, particularly Saoirse Ronan was just incredible as Jo. I never read the book, so I don't know how faithful an adaptation this was, but as a film, Little Women was just fantastic. I can't wait to see it again. So the next film I'm going to touch on answers the question, what if you had David Lynch make a movie pretending he wasn't David Lynch? What if you threw aside the entire surreal David Lynch style? And I love deer! Well, okay, most of the David Lynch style, and just had him tell a straightforward, sweet, poignant story. Well, you'd get the straight story. With an incredible late career performance from Richard Farnsworth, I think this might have been his last movie. Does anybody know? Let me know down in the comments. It's a touching, simple story of one man's slow road trip to redemption and the lives that he touches along the way. As much as it's not representative of David Lynch's style, it was still one of his best films. This was so good, and this was such a relief on the heels of The Neon Demon, which, as you know, I couldn't stand. Such great understated performances from Ryan Gosling and Carey Mulligan. Wonderful cinematography, brilliantly edited. This was so good. Woman Under the Influence is John Cassavetes' exploration of the line between quirkiness and insanity, as well as a slice of life family drama that feels like a working class documentary. I mean, the handheld camera, just the little everyday incidents that are expanded and made into something so important. Peter Falk is amazing in this movie, but Gina Rowlands really steals the show in her performance as the title character. A clever and amusing look back at a time period before television when radio was king. This is an era that, if you know me, you probably know I'm somewhat obsessed with. I find the old-time radio programs just endlessly fascinating. Now, Woody Allen himself, as a person, may be problematic. We'll get into that perhaps another time. But this is a moving and delightful and humorous look back at those early years when radio reigned supreme, and the role that these kinds of programs once played in the lives of ordinary Americans. This one's kind of a cheat. I know it's not a movie, it's a limited series on Netflix, but you know what? My channel, my list, bite me. This was a great way to end the year. It was just so well shot, so well acted, such an engaging story. Anya Taylor-Joy was just incredible. I had some reservations going into it. I didn't know a whole lot about the show. I knew it involved a teenage girl learning to play chess, and part of me was really concerned that this was going to be all like,
And she's a girl, wow!
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with female empowerment. Female empowerment is a really big deal, but there's genuine female empowerment, and then there's the only reason why this is supposed to be important is because she's a girl, and girls aren't supposed to be smart, skilled, badasses, whatever. But in this case, it wasn't really just like, wow, she's a girl who plays chess over and over and over again. In fact, the show kind of makes fun of that. And really, sexual politics is an undercurrent in a lot of episodes, but it's really a minor one. It's not the focus of the show. Really, this is a story of loss and redemption and addiction and found family and the line between genius and insanity. The cinematography is incredible. My fiance pointed out that a lot of the visual style was very Kubrickian. And there's a montage sequence in the 5th episode which takes place during a chess match and which combines montage with the ambitions of multiple split screens. And it was just one of the most incredible feats I've ever seen, because not only was it a dazzling array of images, it was done in such a way that it wasn't confusing or hard to follow. Also, credit to the writer and director. I think this was co-written and directed by the same person, based on a novel, of course. But the co-writer and director, kudos to them for recognizing that the real drama is not taking place on the chessboard, it's between people. So I never really felt like I was just sitting there watching a chess match. Half the time during the matches, the camera isn't on the board, it's on their faces, because the real drama here, the real conflict, is between people. It's in trying to figure out what the other person knows and is planning to do and what's going on in their minds. It manages to make the thought processes behind chess strategy into something visual. This was just a really, really fantastic series. If you haven't checked it out already, I highly recommend it. Well guys, that about does it up for my best of 2020. Hope you enjoyed that video. What were the best films you saw in 2020? Or TV shows if, like me, you're a filthy cheater and want to include those. Let me know down in the comments below. Stay tuned for my 8 unclassifiable cinematic experiences of 2020. Until then, stay safe, happy, and well. See you on the flip side.